Yo, what's going on, everybody? Let's just do this here. How about I be on camera? How's that? Is that good? Is this what you want? What's going on? Who are we talking? Oh, we got some people coming in here. Who do we got? We got Nigel. We got Andy. We got Sir Darren. We got Jacket 7. Caleb's here. Love Soul. Marty K is here. Psalm 4. Germ Germ. How's it going? Everybody, you are currently listening to our favorite stock royalty-free jam that comes with the streaming software. Masterpiece. Oh, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that it doesn't just repeat. I'm going to do it. Here I go. I'm going to turn off the loop track. We can just get it one. Well, not going to lie, folks. Not going to lie. In fact, I'll leave this to, I won't say it. I'm going to let 580 say it. Because you know, we got the Canary text message alert system. Very easy. Do it here. Text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. You'll get some updates when we go live. Very easy. Little text to your phone. Fun part is you can text us back at that number. You can text that number whenever you want, as long as you have texted Canary to it. And shout out to 580. 580 just texted and says, "Today feels heavy. My heart is sick. Definitely in need of a comforting voice, Baz. The Lord is always good. And for that, I am grateful." Well, I feel very similar there, 580. Thank you very much. I can only pray that if there is any comfort to be found in my voice, that it comes directly from the Father, because I don't know if I have it in me to be very comforting. I don't feel very comforted. It is 9/11, so that's an auspicious sort of occasion. I don't know if auspicious, that's the most correct way to use the word auspicious. But yes, never forget, we are remembering Building 7 specifically. Lots of Building 7 talk today. Thank you, Trevor, in the chat. But, you know, here's the thing. Thing is, don't have a whole ton of plans today. Not gonna lie. Just don't really have it in me. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna just go ahead and play the caller jingle, which will start the podcast version of the show. You can find on the podcast players. Go check it out. But I don't have a big perfect way to start the show, so I'm just going to get it started now, and we'll see what happens. So y'all know how this works. I'm going to go like this, then I'm going to play this thing. Here we go.
Called it. We got a caller. We got a caller on the line here.
There you go. What's up, everybody? We're officially starting Canary Clubhouse here on September 11th, 2025. And for those who are listening to the podcast version, you know, I was starting to go into my feelings in the pre-show, which usually doesn't make it to the podcast version. But you know what? I said, I don't know. We don't have a whole lot of plans for today's show. So we're just going to make sure that the podcast listeners can get in it from the very beginning. I'm not going to lie. It might be the sort of heaviest 9/11 since 9/11. I know there's not a whole lot. I mean, well, that's not true. We do have quite a few people who were born after 9/11, 2001. So, but for those who were alive during 9/11, that was a pretty weird one, pretty heavy day. And of course, we remember it every 9/11 since. We never forget, of course, we never forget. And in fact, it's almost become like, I don't know, part of the yearly, the sort of yearly content schedule for literally every human on Earth to remember I don't know, dig into 9/11, dig into George Bush, dig into thermite, dig into dancing Israelis, dig into whatever. There's always something to talk about on the 9/11 show, isn't there? But this is a particularly sort of heavy 9/11 because of the events yesterday. And of course, everybody knows about that. But just before starting Canary Cry News Talk on Wednesday, September 10th, the news broke that there was a shooting at the Charlie Kirk American Comeback Tour over there in Utah. And, it's really weird. We were one of the only, uh, not to call ourselves notable, I guess, but sort of one of the only notable shows that were live in the exact moments. And it's been a very heavy and interesting time for us because there are these moments in history for the Canarians where we just happen to be live at the right time. January 6th is a great example of this. We're sort of one of the few shows that just happened to be live at the moment. We got to watch it happen live, not necessarily respond like we have some sort of deep insight or something, but there's something about participating in these events live that creates a perspective that you can't get otherwise. With January 6th, it was very interesting because as we watched it live, we saw how kind of boring it was for the most part. When you're watching the live footage, it's mostly people standing around. It's mostly a lot of sort of standoffs, maybe a tussle here and there. You can see like on the helicopter feed, and you'll see just like a little bit of jostling in one part of the crowd. But when the story starts to be told afterwards, and the narratives, it essentially requires a narrative. There is no telling a story if it's not happening live that doesn't include a sort of human involvement in crafting the narrative. And this was something very interesting that gave Canarians some insight, was that we got to sit and watch it live in all of its mostly boring glory. But even the next day, in the retelling of this story on the news or on wherever, different podcasts or shows, when you're reconstructing a historical event, you're required to sort of narrativize the series of events. And that's when it gets really exciting. That's when the story gets really exciting. That's when, on January 7th, reviewing all the footage, that's when you can take all the fight scenes and all the breaking things and all the tear gas and all the tussles. And you can take all that footage that pops up, especially from people on the ground uploading and whatever. And you can pick all the most exciting things and you can put it together into this story that you tell over and over and over and over. But what doesn't fit in the story, what essentially can't fit in the telling of the story, is all the sort of excruciating, slow and boring parts of it. And so for us, we're I guess blessed enough to be able to be live so often that when we are live and not only experiencing some sort of big event, but also sort of not just reporting on some big event, which is to present a narrative of the events that happened, but actually experience it in real time. There's a very special sort of historical benefit to that. It gives some perspective and insight that just can't be received any other way. Sitting like even 9/11 itself. For those who are alive, I was young, but I was very conscious at the time. And I've told the story about September 10th, 2001. I was a young child, but sort of tended to be sort of spiritually sensitive. I've talked about various, sleep paralysis, supernatural experiences. My childhood was sort of filled with these sorts of things, as I think children are sort of more apt to have. But so I've told the story, September 10th, I'm can't sleep. I go into my mom's bedroom. I say, it just feels like something really bad's going to happen. I don't know what it is. Can't, how old was I? I must have been like 12 or 13. I said, almost crying. And my parents let me sleep in their bed because I felt so bad. I could, just so scared. And my parents, being longtime Christians and Christians with supernatural worldview, they take the clue and say, okay, something's going on. So, I was kind of a little old to be sleeping in my parents' bed, like being, scared at night or something. But they let me sleep in their bed on September 10th, and then woke up on September 11th to the TV on in the bedroom, in my parents' bedroom. And there it was, 9/11 happening right there. My parents let me stay home from school, and being that young, you don't really understand. But for those who are alive and watching 9/11 live, is very interesting because almost nobody saw the initial attack live, right? But almost instantaneously, everybody's watching the news, everybody's watching the live news. You're only seeing whatever footage the news was able to gather. Most of the time, it was hours. I don't know the exact timing between the two planes, but it was a while. I think it was like a half hour or something. I could be wrong, but the point being that most of the experience of being alive on 9/11 was waiting, for whatever's next. And the news, trying to fill the time, trying to build the narrative as we go. They mess up the narrative a little bit by announcing Building 7 collapsing before Building 7 actually collapsed. Oopsies. That's something that can kind of be rearranged later, but live, that's when you're able to see, hey, there's smoke coming out of the building. We wait 10 minutes, 20 minutes. You're just staring at the TV, and they just have people yapping and talking, and they go, we don't know who's doing this. Oh, Saudi Arabia. But a lot of people don't remember. Saudi Arabia actually took responsibility for the attack right away. Right away. They were announcing on the news that Saudi Arabia has taken responsibility for the attack. I don't know what that means. I'm like 12, 13, whatever. But anyways, most of the experience of living through these things is just waiting. Just looking at an image on the screen of a building with smoke coming out of it. And that's what made the second tower, the second plane, so impactful, is because they hit the one, the whole world sat down to watch the live feed of the smoke coming out of the first building. And then that's when the second plane comes, when everybody had their eyes on it. That's what made it such an effective sort of, triggering trauma trigger that they still continue to sort of benefit off of today. And yesterday was kind of similar, kind of a similar thing. We had this big plan to do the show, and we're putting it together, and we're in our document, and we're going back and forth, and we're digging up more details, and we're finding all this stuff because we were going to talk about the stabbing in Charlotte. And Gon saw it first. Gon saw the alert about Charlie Kirk, the shooting at the Charlie Kirk thing. And I don't think he'll mind me sharing this part of it. But Gon's was immediately very affected. He was immediately very, very distraught with the news. And it sort of sidetracked, or I don't know, derailed this frantic mode that we are in, that we're always in, when we're sitting down to do the show, it's a couple hours before sitting down and being able to do the show. And that whole time it's boom, 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 doing this, doing that, writing that, getting this story, digging out this link, da, 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 da. And it just stopped. And the news that there's, that Charlie Kirk had been shot, uh, hit, and it was Gonz almost immediately sort of checked out a little bit. Not checked out like he wasn't there or he was just staring or whatever, went away, but that immediately sort of took all of our attention. And finding clips, finding reports, looking for sources, watching a video, watching a different video, watching a different video. And sort of everything stopped. And it kind of was that sort of being alive on 9/11 feel where initial thing happens and then you're waiting. There's a lot of waiting. You can fill that waiting with asking questions and seeking out information, but it's a lot of waiting because you're waiting for the next thing. It won't be like that in the telling of the story about Charlie Kirk in the future. It'll never be like that because the story is he was doing an event, got shot in the neck, and he died. That's the story. It's a 2-second story. Which we're so blessed to be able to do what we do. I think it's a blessing. It's certainly a unique position to be in where we get to record I guess it's just that live record in real time what it's like to go through some sort of cultural trauma like that. And we did the show. You can check out the show yesterday if you want to see how that all went. But of course, you've heard by now. And man, I remember when Gons first heard the news and how distraught he was. I don't think it occurred to me. It hadn't sort of. No, it didn't occur to me. I wasn't feeling whatever Gons was feeling at the time. And again, you can watch this all live from yesterday's show. But it was really when we finally got confirmation that he had actually died. There was something about, the fact he had gotten shot, even the fact he had gotten shot in the neck. I made the mistake of watching the close-up of the thing. That's a mistake. I actually don't recommend anybody watch that close-up if you're given the chance to do it. I see that the close-up shots being taken down in various places, and I actually think that's a good idea. Because for those who didn't see it, I'll just say it is the most gruesome image. It's the most gruesome video of someone dying in real life that I've really ever seen. And there's other horrible things. I generally don't try to seek out gruesome death videos. Try to avoid them, actually, as I recommend everybody does. But this one was sort of unexpected. It almost. No, I'm not going to say that because I don't want to start down that train. But I recommend not watching it if you haven't already. But I don't know how y'all felt, and I don't really know how Gons felt. I mean, I think he felt similar to me, which was, somebody getting shot, especially as we sit here. I sit in a VR headset and we're behind a screen, and most of the news we're getting is scrolling through on a timeline or we're seeking it out on whatever. Somebody getting shot isn't actually that alarming. That might be weird. That might be weird to say, and maybe that's a particularly sort of American way to feel about it. I don't know. But someone like Charlie Kirk getting shot isn't that. It isn't the most alarming thing, especially because he's a conservative. We expect now conservatives to get shot at and to get shot. This is a big thing that's sort of having to work out vocally with some other people in my life because, most people are sort of under the impression that conservatives are the violent ones. They're the gun-loving, shooting ones. But nobody can name a single recent, conservative attack on a liberal figure. Crazy thing is, you couldn't even name a, besides a politician, you can name liberal politicians. I could not even name a liberal personality that would be targeted or even is doing anything. That's the weird thing about it, and I think that's why it's so easy to target conservatives, because conservatives are out there doing things. They're having rallies, they're having events, they're in it, they're doing stuff. And at least from my point of view, I can't think of a single person who is sort of equivalent to a Charlie Kirk, like a liberal Charlie Kirk. I just don't know what they're doing. Most of it's because they don't have to do anything, because they have the mainstream on their side, because they have the establishment, because they have everything. They don't need to do much. They are the default secular worldview. If you're a good person, you're a liberal. If you're a bad person, you're conservative. So they don't need to have events. They don't need to go try to change minds. So, I don't even know. But there's a very interesting point. It's a very interesting point in history here where there's choices. There's big things, of course. I'll say this revealed in myself some pretty dark things. It's easy to point out other people responding in a bad way, outwardly and publicly. Now, luckily, I really have not seen a single call for violence from a, verified human, maybe some sort of Twitter post from some rando, but I've not seen any calls for violence. In fact, I've only seen calls for prayer, peace, contemplation, restraint. How blessed are we that sort of Christian ethics and morals has had such a profound resurgence recently that it seems like at least the visible parts of the conservative population, they're now defaulting to the Christian response, which is not violence, which is not revenge, which is these sorts of things. And like I said on yesterday's show, that's the revolutionary part about it. That's and when I say it, I mean Christ, about Christianity. Because it turns the sort of calls for justice on their head. And when I say calls for justice, things like, the impulse for calls for revenge, the impulse for calls for, things like, this is war or whatever. And so I'm happy to see, much like that, I'll say, hilarious Nick Fuentes clip that I played on the show yesterday, which was not safe for work, but also revealed a strange sort of little burrow, a little pocket of some actual, Christ motivated response to things like this. Man, the left is, trying, always trying. Like I said, this whole thing is really, I mean, I'm thanking God for the experience because I'm having this is a hard time. This is very hard. I'm not even a Charlie Kirk guy. This is not even. I don't think I've ever listened or watched an entire podcast, even with him as a guest. But from what we know about Charlie Kirk is he was basically as normal as you can get, like as centrist, like not radical, not whatever. It's just like the most mainstream conservative as you can get. And to see the response. Now, let me be clear. Social media is 100% sentiment controlled. Okay, that's not to say that every single post you see is untrue or made by a bot, but we're not talking about individual posts. We're seeing about the massive posts. You can see one nasty post and go, what a nasty person. But when your timeline, when the algorithms, when the powers that be are activating the sentiment control, seeing one nasty post, you can go, oh, what a bad person. But when the entire timeline starts getting jam-packed with absolutely horrendous responses by people who we generally consider as horrendous themselves, that is the sentiment control. Okay, that is what we need to resist. That is where the whatever the powers that be can start really doing their social engineering work. So I would recommend as many of you as possibly can just stay off the social media. I found myself getting stuck in the cycle again this morning, just sitting on the toilet scrolling, seeing one awful thing after another and getting, oh boy, really really revealing the darkness that I do still have as a human being, as someone, a participant, a citizen yeah, maybe not a citizen, someone who is located in a fallen world, I'll say, through faith, we're citizens of heaven, but we are currently residents here in this fallen world. And whoo doggy, I just had to get off. I was up late last night just scrolling, seeing especially the politicians. Excuse me for people who follow me on X because you saw, just got on a roll, man. And the algos, I saw it happen, started feeding it to me. Some politician, some Democrat said something about political violence has no place in blah, blah, blah. And I go, that's interesting that you're pointing out specifically political violence. You are a politician. I guess political violence would be of particular interest to you. But how about just all violence? What do you mean? Why are we pointing out political violence? The algorithm saw me make that comment, and then boom, one after the other, after the other, after the other, for literally like 20 posts. And if you go to my activity or whatever on X, you can see it. It was like late last night, just boom, 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 boom. Political violence, political violence. But what do you mean political violence? Why just political violence? And it is like, Obama, Hillary, Nancy Pelosi. It's just like the algos were like, oh boy, here we go. We got him. He's commenting. And then you just scroll down my thing and it was just like boom, 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 boom. Every establishment figure. Just commenting the political violence thing. It's because the algorithm knew that I was on a roll of pointing out and commenting on these things, and I was working myself up. And so we're detaching a little bit. We're detaching a little bit. It's a little heavy today. I was not, like I said, was not a huge Charlie Kirk guy or fan, but at the beginning of this year, you guys have heard me say it over and over and over and over that at the beginning of this year in January, I really felt the Lord was saying, the world's going to be completely different in 365 days. And here we are coming up close on January 2026, coming there. It's on the horizon. And so far, yet, not a whole lot had happened that had sort of changed the fabric of our reality. And this is one of those things that does feel like that. It is one of those things how many revolutions, wars, blah, 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 were started by one guy getting killed? How about like almost all of them? Like, don't all the sort of world shifting, history shifting, narrative changing, movements or periods of time, it's like they all start with one. They start with like this blood sacrifice, whether, this is on purpose, which I mean, this was obviously on purpose. It's an assassination. We know the spiritual mechanics of how things work in this world. We know the ideologies and the spiritualities and the principalities and the powers at the top. We know how they work. We point it out all the time. Is basically our job here is to identify these things and communicate what's going on in sort of the spiritual realm, and it always starts with a blood sacrifice. And I'm not going to really get into the specifics of various responses and horrible things. And I'm not going to really get into the conspiracies of artists that people are putting it together. There's the perpetrator that had been arrested yesterday live. Turns out he got released. It wasn't him, of course. How silly of us to think that they would have just caught a guy immediately. Turns out there was someone on the roof, and the footage shows them running, and then they found a rifle with a silencer, and then there's talk of, this was a professional hit, this was a blah, blah, blah. People looking into Charlie Kirk's recent attitudes towards Israel changing, this is all stuff for later. And it's just, we're going to get tired of it eventually, so let's pace ourselves. So, I really didn't have a big plan for today. Really didn't have a heart for it. Not gonna lie, considered not coming on today. Just didn't feel healthy. Didn't feel like I had a whole lot to contribute, but I think it's a good opportunity. I think mostly what we're gonna do today, we'll open up the lines. We'll take some callers. We'll do that. I'm just gonna honestly, for my own benefit, probably as we've seen here so far in the show, just do some outward processing, to a degree. Our whole job here is to process information, and it takes a lot of us to do it. And processing live on the air, which while can be a dangerous thing, because, you do something live and people take it as the opinion you've landed on, or they don't like your thought process, or they don't like how you got to something or whatever. It's just part of the hazards of the job. But this is kind of what a community like this is for. God made us human beings to not just process things in our own beautiful brains and our own beautiful souls, but there's benefits to processing with other people that we can't get with the perspectives that we are trapped in as individuals. So I think that's what we'll do. I don't think we're going to go very long today. I know that's funny to say as we're already about a half hour in. But we'll just kind of see what happens. So this is a call-in show, folks. This is technically a call-in show. And you'll notice on the live and the various video streams and things, there's no description. I didn't know what to put into the description of this. The algorithms are not going to like that. But I would like to hear from some of y'all. If you look down in the description of this video, I know it's hard if you're full screen on a phone or something, but go to the description. There's a link there to call in. There's a link to call in. In fact, I'll even copy and paste it here into the chat. I'm not going to guarantee we can get to everybody, but I will be, we'll be running the 10-minute timer for every call. And remember, it's not hard and fast, although maybe I should be saying that it's hard and fast. It might be better if I say that we're going to be very strict with the timers. Okay. So don't ignore them. But we'll have a 10-minute timer. for every call. We'll just get into whatever y'all want to get into. We don't even have to talk about Charlie Kirk. We don't have to talk about 9/11. We don't have to talk about anything. This is all about whatever God wants to do at this time. So that's what we'll do. If you look in the description, you'll see a call-in link. Just click on that or copy and paste it into your browser. And it'll ask you a couple questions. It'll ask for your whatever, your name. You'll need to give it permission to use your camera. You need to give it permission to use your microphone. Y'all know how that goes. I mean, some people don't. But there you go. Put that link there into the chat. And then I'll go to Rumble. I'm coming to you, Rumble. I got to put yours in individually. Here we go. Here's stream for the Rumble chat. Once you fill in those questions or whatever, and you agree to give your camera and your microphone permission, it'll put you into a waiting room. And you can watch the show from back there. You can see everybody else. There's a private chat back there. So just hang out there until it's your turn. I'm just going to go from, first come, first serve here. Whoever shows up in there. We got some people coming in. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to start out with the caller, the one and only. Oh, you know what? Did I press record? Oh, good. Thank you, Lord. I just had a flash of panic that I didn't press record. Okay. All right. Here we go. We got the one, the only Sir David G coming on the air. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Yeah, just weird, man. Just a weird day. Feeling weird.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. How you do? I mean, what's going on? What's on your mind?
I mean, obviously all the things this week,
Yeah.
that girl getting stabbed and this Charlie Kirk thing, and they've really been winding everybody up for quite a long time.
Yep.
And I feel like we've reached some kind of next rung on the ladder, if you will. I'd say I'm more concerned about what's going to come out of this. I mean, not to downplay what happened. I mean, lives being lost it's not funny or cute or anything like that.
Right.
It really is sad, but ultimately we all know where we're going.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not that I am upset that his children won't, grow up with their father. That's really the most upsetting thing about it to me.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely concerned about what this is going to lead to,
Oh,
as
yeah.
far as the technocratic surveillance state, as far as all that goes. More violence, probably. I think we're going to start seeing the right start to do certain things because they're fed up. They're getting everybody all wound up.
That is the fear. That is the fear. If and the thing is, if your conservatism is not, rooted in Christ, if it doesn't matter if it's your conservatism or your liberalism or whatever, if your politics don't flow from your relationship with Christ already, I mean, who knows? Anything could happen.
Yeah, exactly. And I've even, I'm not on really any social media, but what I have seen of the reaction of some people, man, it's just wild.
It's wild.
And it really forced me to take an honest look at myself today and ask myself, well, hold on a second. Have I behaved in such a manner in the past about somebody that I didn't necessarily agree with when something bad happened to them? Did I, almost feel giddy or some type of joy?
Totally.
And, just, man, just the kids, dude, that they're going to have to, because say what you will about him as however you felt about him politically, at least he was trying as a father.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And there's enough dysfunction in our society, and you're going to have another set of kids who are going to grow up without their father being around. Maybe they'll have some good examples But it's not a perfect substitute for, having both parents there.
Yeah, it's a
So
huge
really,
loss.
it's just a sad thing, man. And that's pretty much it. I don't know what else to say, because what else can we really talk about right now? Because
Yeah.
this is kind of
Well,
taking precedence over everything else.
totally. I mean, I love what I know. I have some like news stories and stuff but I don't know. Honestly, we are where we are. But no, I love what you said about, this kind of like I referred to in sort of the earlier part of the show is like I'm catching myself with like, oh no, that's that's dark, Basil. Oh no, that's
Yeah.
don't that's I'm being reminded of my own fallen nature. Not that I'm necessarily I don't know what is even revenge in a case like this. I mean, that's kind of another thing is like the human standard of justice or revenge or something, eye for an eye, or whatever you want to do. um when I found myself thinking, okay, who's the liberal equivalent of Charlie Kirk, trying to find who it was, then I stopped because I was like, wait a second, why am I trying to find the liberal equivalent of Charlie Kirk? I don't, why am I doing that? Is because I think that's like, what, there's some revenge to be taken there, there's a price to be paid. Oh, that's dark. Let's not go there. And what makes, I think, Charlie's assassination, I think, extra disturbing is that he's not a politician. It's that he's just a guy who, like, I mean, a popular guy now, of course, but he's just a guy who just like talked. He doesn't have any like power. I'm sure he's well off from his whatever streaming and blah blah blah. But it's not like a politician or something. And when you get down to just like pure hatred or celebration of somebody's demise because of what they said and what their ideas are, someone who has no power over what happens in your life whatsoever, whoo doggy, we've gone somewhere dark.
Yeah, definitely. And he was, I'd say more than anything, he stood as the personification of the First Amendment to a lot of people, because he went
Yeah.
out there and I'm not trying to say that I agree with everything I mean, we can all say that too, that, I don't agree with everything he said, but by and large, he has every right to say it.
Yeah.
And we've seen this same thing from the left for years and years and years. When they don't like what you say, they're going to try and find a way to make sure you don't get to say it. And he kind of pushed back against that whole that type of behavior. And for a lot of people, that's what he was. He was a personification of, the First Amendment. And really, I mean, if you want to get conspiratorial about it, I feel like it was um one of the three-letter agencies behind this. Whether or not he was himself an agent, either, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
you know he's being used in the way they want to use him in his death. And what does that mean for the rest of us? Well, I mean, you're going to start seeing a lot more individuals, I would think, um, fall to one side or the other. And because the right seems to have these um, individuals who stand as icons, for lack of a better word that I can get right now.
Hmm.
But what is the left? Who does the left have? Nobody. But the individuals themselves, and you can probably pick a lot of them out from a crowd just by the way that they present themselves.
Yeah.
So I would say you're probably going to start seeing some stuff against just regular people. I hope I'm wrong about that, but I mean, human nature, right? When people are pushed too far, and somebody they look up to, a hero even, is done in such a way as this, and then you see people who look a certain way behaving a certain way, considering this person, then what's going to happen? You're going to have people starting to take, as like you were saying, where's the revenge in this? I think that's going to be it.
Yeah.
Maybe not in a large fashion, but at least, here and there. And then you've got a recipe for, Civil War's kind of extreme, but what would that even
Not
look
that
like? And
extreme. I'm at this point not that extreme. Like there's a lot of
yeah,
I mean that's the interesting thing I think about the I don't know exactly how to identify it, but the conservative, a certain sort of part of the conservative mind doesn't go towards assassination. Like it looks like a part of the liberal mind, or at least the radical liberal mind, like focuses on the assassination of individuals, where a part of the radical conservative mind goes to civil war. It's like part of the
right.
two different ways that they kind of see things playing out. Well, thanks so much for calling in,
Yeah,
Sir
man,
David. Really appreciate you calling in, buddy.
for sure. Try to, I guess, try to have a good day.
Yeah,
Um,
hey, by the grace of God, my friend.
yes, sir. All right, man. Thanks.
Thank you, buddy. God bless. Okie dokie. There you go. Thank you very much, Sir David G. This is great. Okay, so we got a nice chunk of people coming in the waiting room. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to bring this timer down to 5. Again, not a hard and fast timer, just a good way for us to keep an eye on making sure people can call in. So we got another caller here in the back room. It's Mr. Trevor. Trevor, you're on the air. What's going on, buddy?
How's it going, man?
It's going okay. I'm better now that I get to talk to you guys.
I got you. Well,
What's on your mind?
I mean, I wanted to call in just because I do have a lot on my mind. I feel a lot of, you know, the way Charlie. I've followed him over the years because I followed a pastor named Jack Hibbs, and for a while there, and Charlie would go on his show from time to time back when I used to be a pretty big Trump supporter. And over the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 years or so, um, I've started to kind of realize through y'all's show and other things that I've studied, kind of in the financial realm through the uh, Federal Reserve and stuff, like who actually pulls controls over, the real power centers of society.
Right.
And it kind of took me away from the whole left right paradigm thing. And I think there's a lot of people around me uh, in my circle of influence and my friends and my parents and stuff like that that we're starting to kind of look at the world through that lens. And I think I see a lot of myself in Charlie because in the last, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months, he started to kind of question things that are, just
Yeah.
bugaboos in the Christian
Right.
world. Like you're not supposed to question Israel. You're not supposed to question, and even some of the financial stuff that, because, it's very, very complex and complicated. But once you start to realize, what the way the world actually works, and, you, you know, it's hard not to want to see the world through that lens.
Totally.
And I think he started to kind of question some of those things. And I think I, I hate to be, just step out on a limb and call it like because my conspiracy hat minded individual the way that I am now, but it's almost like he was a sacrificial lamb to bring everybody kind of back into that paradigm.
Yeah.
Uh, because you've got so many things happening at once. I know a lot of people don't understand, and I didn't know for a long time how uh, our bond market works. But uh, I read a 900-page book called "The Creature from Jekyll Island," and
Yeah. Yeah.
and it took me down so many different paths, and I see this coming to a head in a major way in the next 5 or 6 years, because it's not sustainable, and I can't really go into it right now, but I just see a lot of people around me that were starting to look into the Epstein stuff. My dad, who's a boomer, was starting to look into a lot of this stuff, and now he's totally back on just left right paradigm, whatever whatever
Yeah.
Trump says, we do. You know, genius. I mean, I had buddies that were looking into the Genius Act, like looking into, you know, kind of really questioning things, and that's coming from the young demographic of this country.
Yeah.
And um, I didn't, you know, I think this is just kind of. It feels like to me that he was offed for that, and I know you didn't want to get into that today.
No. I
Uh,
mean, I get it. I'm seeing it too. You know, the thing is, because I wasn't necessarily a close Charlie Kirk fan or anything, when I see clips come by, I don't necessarily have the context for like where that lives in history. Like if some of these questionings or some of these attitude changes, if they were recent, people are telling me that they are recent and stuff. And, you know, but I think going back to what you said, the sort of sacrificial lamb, we at least know in the sort of spiritual realm and the spiritual mechanics of how these, you know, history plays out. There's always a sacrificial lamb. And, you know, you look at all the guys at sort of Charlie's level, and you just look at their countenance, you look at their, you know, their speeches, you look at their whatever. I mean, he just seems like the most sort of tame one. Like the fact he was so moderate, you know, he was so moderated and he was so, you know, peaceful to the people he disagreed with. It's just like, it's almost just like, yeah, this sort of lamb of a guy being chosen to be, you know, the guy to be taken down to set whatever this is off. But yeah, like I said, you know, we can go off sideways on that forever
yeah,
and probably will.
yeah. Yeah, well, and I just see like, you know, the more that this stuff comes out and the more that, because like, you know, that's why I'm one of the main reasons I'm so thankful for this channel because it's a lot of like-minded individuals that kind of see the way the world actually works. And it's frustrating because I care about people and my, you know, my brothers and sisters around me that really are not paying attention to anything at all. Like everything's just kind of, you know, 1965 Mayberry still, and they really don't have any context for what's going on. And, you know, event by event, blow by blow of things that happen at my local church, I'm starting to see some tension, you know,
Yeah.
just rise up amongst, you know, my pastor. I talked to him a little bit yesterday. You know, I'm trying to slip things in because I don't want to seem like just straight up, um, you know, tinfoil hat dude.
Yeah,
At,
there's
at
there's there's a gracious way. Just trust me. I think we all deal with that. But yeah, just God has a sort of perfect way of giving us the grace, not just for ourselves, but also sort of a graciousness to wait for the perfect timing and the perfect words and things like that. That is a common struggle, man. I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, well, and I think my passion is I just want people to be ready, spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And I don't see the church by and large being ready for what's hitting this country.
Yeah.
I don't see it, and you know, I think that's part of the reason why this channel and many others like it are God's raising up people for when some of these things start to really hit. You know, economic collapse, that kind of stuff. We're gonna know what's happening, and
Yeah.
you're gonna stand in the gap in your local community and be that person of who's calm and understanding and realizes what's going on, and you're being raised up for a purpose. I'm experiencing levels of spiritual attack on my life right now that are really just I cannot quite describe. Like I just
Yeah.
it's very, very tough. Just day to day is just like a day feels like forever, but then it feels like life's moving fast. It's very strange.
Yeah.
But anyway, I know I've probably hit my 5 minutes. I appreciate you
No,
letting me come
amen,
on.
buddy. Those are great words, man. Really, thank you for blessing us today. I really appreciate it.
Nice talking to you about them.
You bet. Take it easy. God bless. Yeah, man. I think it's interesting. The Lord's kind of speaking to a lot of us in a similar way. And yeah, but it's a funny community we have here because we're not the biggest community. We're not the most, I don't know, flashy or whatever. But it's definitely a community filled with people who God is raising up to stand firm and stand confidently in the knowledge of what God's got going on. And I think that equipping each and every one of us in our various places in the world, I see that's like God throwing the seed, like the parable of the sower, each little seed falling on a different patch of ground. And whether or not that patch of ground is ready to receive is different, but it doesn't change the fact that the sower casts us there. Next up, we got Caretaker Dan's on the line here. What's up, Caretaker Dan? How you doing, buddy?
Oh wow, I didn't sleep good last night.
Yeah.
I think about 4 o'clock I went to bed. This people are mad. People are really mad, like I've never seen before.
Yeah.
This is it would have been chaos and a very big disturbance had the assassination of Trump happened.
Yeah.
Trump, but this was a martyrdom, like
Yeah.
that causes a revolution. This is the spirit is heavy today. This is something else is coming because of this. This isn't going to end here, and it's not. I praying to God that people stay level headed because this
Yeah.
can be ugly real
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah, man, I feel you. I mean, I think that's part of you can just feel the atmosphere, the spiritual atmosphere. And what I'm so grateful for is, at least those in sort of my immediate vicinity, both physically and sort of digitally, like the Canarians too. What I love is that, I'm hearing a repetition of the same sentiment, which is like, whoa, okay, heavy duty. This is a time for all of us to really press into the Father and because I think I mentioned how I feel my flesh pulling for revenge and stuff too. I think we can all feel that. I think that's a wonderful thing about, having Christ in us is we can identify and feel the shift in our own souls when it starts turning towards that sort of fallen nature, man.
I don't know how many comments I deleted last night on social media. No, don't.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely delete more before I actually post them. Sometimes just typing it out is enough to
No, go back.
get the
Erase
feeling out,
it.
delete it, go back. Yeah, yeah.
Uh, I just don't know what else to say, but this is gonna cause something else is coming.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
oof.
I feel you, man. And I think, I think for us as believers and us as Canarians, this is a good time, to just sit and let God speak. I
Yeah.
don't think, as much of a sort of tear I went on Twitter yesterday, and as much as I am now trying to avoid Twitter as much as possible, which I recommend everybody do. But we're lucky as a community to have such an intentional check-in with the Lord as often as possible, and so many great people who we've been through and processed a lot together. And so I'm actually a little heartened, I will say. I feel good about the fact that so many Canarians, we feel the shift, we feel something coming, but we all also feel called to, so this moderation, this waiting, this, relying on the Lord. This is an opportunity for God to really work some miracles here, and I think we should stay expectant for that.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, just feels like it's a time to just everyone needs to call for repentance. Just repent and wait and listen, like you
Yep.
said.
Yep, I think you're right. And it's a great opportunity for each of us to identify these little moments of darkness that pop up in ourself and to, attack it with every, sort of spiritual weapon that we have. and to identify those things, because what the biggest problems are going to stem from people giving in to the darkness, giving into the worldly revenge. The biggest problems we're going to see are going to be from people who have not handed over the battle to the Lord. And so I think it's a good reminder for all of us to do that. It's great to hear from you, caretaker Dan. Thank you so much, buddy. It's great to talk to you.
Love you guys.
God bless. It is nice. It is nice to have such a wonderful, level-headed group of people. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. This is what I needed today. This is dude. Y'all are lucky. I'm lucky that I went ahead and pressed the live button today, because I had every reason, every intention to not do that, but you guys are giving me some hope here. Okay, we got Susie Cute 14 coming up and to the stage. What's going on? Oh, Monica, how are you?
Basil,
Great to
I've been trying to call for a really long time, and it was my Brave browser blocking it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I had to open the link on my Safari page, but it all worked out.
That makes sense. I'm glad you made it. You defeated the labyrinth of technology that allows you to call in.
I know, and I'm coming in on the most depressing day.
Maybe it's the most important day for you to call in. Who knows?
Maybe it is. I don't know. Anyways, first of all, I want to say thank you, because this last week I've gotten to meet all of these people from the community on like Zoom and Twitter Spaces, and hear their voices for the first time. And I've had some really wonderfully edifying conversations.
Oh, that's great.
And yeah, and that just wouldn't be possible without the work that you and Gons have done. So
Hey,
I just
amen.
want you to know it's really, really important what you guys are doing.
Oh, I really appreciate that. That's good to hear once in a while, Monica. God bless you.
Well, God bless you. And as sad as I am about Charlie Kirk, because I am sad, it was very sad. The day before, Senator Ron Johnson had a hearing
Yes.
about vaccine safety and a study that had been done on unvaccinated children versus vaccinated children. And Aaron Seary, the lawyer for ICanDecide.org, which is Del Bigtree's organization, testified. I don't know. Did you see any of that?
I saw a couple of breakdowns and analysis. I didn't watch it live or watch the whole thing through, but yeah, I'm pretty up to date on what happened.
Okay, yeah. So I listened to it while I was working, and I started my own little podcast not too long ago, and after listening to this hearing, I thought, I'm going to do a show on vaccines because it's something I've been passionate about for a really long time. And I have all these books I've read and that kind of thing. And so I have this pile of books in my dining room that I'd gotten out. And I fully intended yesterday to sit down after work and, do a real good show and use some clips and everything. And we got chaos instead.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to make a kind of gruesome point here. Charlie Kirk got shot in front of everybody, and it's horrible. He's murdered in cold blood. But how many people were murdered during COVID through the rollout of the bioweapon and then the shot afterwards? And they're still giving it to pregnant women, and they're still giving it to children, and they're dying slowly, some of them, and some are just dying suddenly in their sleep. And because they're not well known, they go unacknowledged. And there's been mass murder, and it's ignored. And I think maybe it's time for people to stop being so distracted by conservative voices or liberal voices and just start paying attention to what they've been doing to us. Our body is our temple. And we almost have no regard for what we put into it. Oh, but my kids need a shot to go to school. They have to wear a mask to go to school. It's just the rules. We have to follow the rules. I'm just tired of being coerced.
Yeah.
And so that's what I wanted to say. I just wanted to rant.
No, that's great. No, you're right. And for those who have not checked out, what was it, a hearing or a whatever it's called, we can boil it down to basically everything we already know is just totally true, and the studies show it, and the data shows it, and and they've been caught hiding it, and the exact studies that basically say all the worst versions of what we already know were done, and they were actively hid, and we know this, and the emails, we even had just yesterday as well had, I think it was Ron Johnson, but I may be wrong, put out an email that was sent by Anthony Fauci that ended with, make sure to delete this, everyone, you got to make sure to delete this. It's like, okay, oh great, oh good, pretty much everything, once again, I mean, we've known this, all the everything that was considered a conspiracy theory and crazy and misinformation and malinformation. It's just every day, just more and more of it. I'm even sitting here just because it's now built into me. I have to go, oh, is this going to get us kicked off of YouTube? Is this going
I'm
to get
sorry.
No, because I'm saying, that's just like what's been installed in us for the past few years. But
No.
if anybody was thinking if this should kick us off of YouTube or whatever, then take it up with the government, take it up with RFK, take it up with Ron Johnson. Like the studies are there, the science is there. I don't know what to tell you. We're just
I
saying
know.
what the science and the government is now saying. So there you go.
I know. It's super gross. I agree with you. And I think it was Rand Paul, and he's allegedly coming after Fauci again. But my one last point, and then I know you have to go to the next person, but my mom loves Charlie Kirk. My teenage son loved Charlie Kirk. And last night my mom sent me this video and I didn't even watch it. I'm like, Mom, I can't watch any videos of this. I don't want to see him die. I saw one, it was enough. I don't need to see another. And my husband is a long range competitive shooter. So she had some questions about this breakdown video, but she says, but it's really important that you watch all these breakdowns because we need justice.
Yeah.
Mom, we're not going to get justice. And my point to her was, how many times have we seen these criminals get caught, like openly, and nothing ever happens? That the only time we're going to get justice is when Jesus comes back.
Yeah.
And I will say, if it weren't for, I think partially the forum that you guys have built, because there's so much good conversation happening there. If I wasn't involved as deeply in the Canary community as I was, I think I would have had like a crazy emotional reaction of hatred and anger yesterday.
Yeah.
And I actually still haven't felt anger. I've felt very sad and very concerned for the state of our nation and for people in general. And Gons brought up Russ Dizdar yesterday, and that was immediately where my mind went to. Was it's a spiritual battle, and this is the beginning, and as evil increases, so will the Lord. Like the Holy Spirit is really going to start showing up in believers, and so now is the time to build one another up and continue to edify one another. So thank you.
Amen. God bless you, Monica. Thank you
God
so
bless
much.
you, Basil. Okay, I love you guys.
I'll
Bye,
talk to you next
everybody.
time. Love you. Bye. Goodness gracious, it's great to talk. Yeah, Monica. I think we played a little boot, scoot, and boogie of her podcast. Monica, before you leave, put the name of your podcast in the private chat so I can let people know about it. Yeah, man, that's the other part of it. I do feel so lucky. Even on the internet, to have a community like you guys, especially one that's been around for so long, and so many of us have been together for 14 years now. I mean, I think even though we're not all in person and we're not all in the same, town or church building or whatever, I think of all the people, all the believers out there who are going through the same thing, having the same feelings, and the only connection or community they have to other believers are kind of just a randos, just a random people on a Twitter handle or something, and not sort of bound by a history of sort of exploring reality and exploring God together like we have. Monica's podcast is the Natural Liberty Podcast. Natural Liberty Podcast, if you want to go check out what Monica is doing there. Okay, we got another caller in the waiting room here. This is Roy. What's up, Roy? How you doing, buddy?
Hello, brethren. How are you today? And I thank you for having me on. Number one, I recommend everybody make some free time to watch your original Age of Deceit, Fallen Angels, and the New World Order. Some call it Age of Deceit Part 1, and pay close attention to the part. I mean, it covers everything, right? But pay close attention to the Black Awakening, was it? Those pages from the book, and Agents of Chaos book pages that you guys shown there, because that video documentary you guys made was made, what, a little bit over a decade now. And look at the state of us all now, the society, if you will. So that's number one. Now, regarding Charlie Kirk, I kind of left off from being too into his social media and everything, because I thought he was starting to, he had people on like Tucker Carlson and stuff like that, that kind of turned pro-Islam and anti-Israel. And that's, you know, take that with a grain of salt. But one thing's for sure, if you watch different channels like I do, the ones that are like us, Christian conservative, independent conservative, that are, they are the ones that are getting angry and saying this has to stop, are channels like The Law of Self-Defense. I highly recommend that. And he goes over and shows all the left community calling for more of what happened to Charlie Kirk all day long. They're calling for it to go against any speaker like him in the conservative community. Now, the channel like Michael Savage, he's independent conservative, and he said, how did this guy, how did he get away? And how is he still on the run all this time? He's still not in custody. So there's something fishy about all that. But yes, and then another thing to be pointed out here is that maybe they're trying to, what's the word I'm looking for, invoke a response from the right. The right all this time has been pretty patient and laid back and everything. So I agree with your viewers and listeners when we have to be patient and we have to see what comes out. But at the same time, we got to put on the full armor of God now. It's only by the power of the Holy Spirit are the Christian conservatives, or on the right, if you will be able to resist falling into that trap. But they did this in front of his family, and his little girl got to see the graphic of the disconnection of the throat, and it probably went through his spine and everything. It was pretty graphic. A lot of people were saying that he was pretty much gone as soon as he got hit. Not even a EMT, first aid, stop the bleed kit, tourniquet, or nothing would have helped with that immediately. But anyway, I just wanted to say, keep up the good work, keep fighting the good fight, and I recommend that we all watch that Age of Deceit, Fallen Angels, and the New World Order. Once again, I'm going to watch it probably tonight for the 20th time. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Roy. Really appreciate you calling in. God bless you, Roy. Thank you, buddy. Calling again. Yeah, goodness gracious. He's mentioned something there that I think we all kind of know. What came to my mind, and not that I'm going to pin it on any one group, and it doesn't need to be pinned on any one group. We know how it works. We know the principalities, the powers, the establishments around the world who are all working to various evil ends. And the response, it's the Hegelian dialectic. The response is always the purpose. The response is the goal. That's always how it is. You pair that with the that 60 Minutes interview with that shady figure talking about one particular intelligence, and it's even not even correct to say one particular intelligence agency. There's no such thing as one particular intelligence agency, but was the 60 Minutes interview coming out saying we are the script writers, we are the filmmakers, we are the actors, we are the directors, we are the producers of a worldwide narrative. And whether or not any real human being falls victim to their darkest response to the situation, the atmosphere that's being created around us, it doesn't actually matter if any of us as individuals ever act upon the worst impulses that we know as fallen beings we are capable of doing. It's just simply creating the narrative, because the narrative is now that anyone can and perhaps will do anything in the name of the other side. And this is how it goes. This is how history's gone for so very long. And to a degree, God bless Monica's mom talking about, wanting to get justice. This is how we get justice, doing the research, taking in the analysis, doing our own analysis, things like this. Get it. I totally get it. In fact, my career was built on that for quite some time. To a degree, sometimes that can feel like they're just putting us in a playpen, giving us a rattler to rattle around because we're antsy. We want to make some noise. We want to affect the world somehow around us. So they'll give us some little rattler and we can rattle and rattle and rattle as much as we want. But as far as the powers that be, not just the human powers, the principalities, the powers, the dark governors of this world, if you want to take another translation of it, really, to a degree, we are just sort of observers. We are not always participants. Oftentimes, we're just the audience. And for those who have ever done any filmmaking or anybody, whatever, know anything about making TV or movies or something, the artsy fartsy people will tell you, I just want to make somebody feel something, man. I just want to make somebody feel. I want the audience to think about their lives and to feel something, because we don't get to feel many things today in the modern world. And I just want to make somebody feel something. And things like this, they're meant to make us feel something. They're meant to be observed, and they're meant to make us feel something, and they're meant to make us feel something because of what comes next. Whatever the next thing is, it's setting the stage for whatever the next thing is. And so I am sort of under the impression that most, if not every single one of the people who are having an emotional response are capable of coming through the emotional response without making any drastic and horrible decisions. But it doesn't matter, because if they want something to be played out on the world stage, they're just going to do it. And it will just be up to us to stay close to the Father and tend to our homes, tend to our own souls, and tend to the believers that God has put next to us, put us shoulder to shoulder with. All right, we got one more caller here in the waiting room. We got Be More Busker coming up on the stage. What's going on, Be More Busker? How are you, buddy? Oh, I see your mic is muted there. Let me see if I can unmute it. Nope, you got to unmute it yourself. Maybe you're here, maybe you're not here. Maybe we'll wait a little bit.
That's my bad. Sorry about
there
that.
There we go. No worries. There you go. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, man, I guess. I'd wish you a happy 9/11, but that's probably in bad taste.
It is a particularly weird taste this year for some reason. Again,
Right?
it's weird. I was sitting here starting the show going, we do something on 9/11 every single year, and it's usually not so heavy. The fact that the Charlie Kirk thing happened just before 9/11, sort of reinstalling this darkness that
Yeah.
sort of hovers over this day. I don't think it's on accident, but it's very strange.
Yeah, totally. And I'm glad I didn't see it. Certain people are saying they saw it and they wish they didn't see it on the video.
Yeah.
I'm sure the people watching it in person didn't. Oh God.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awful. That's in front of the child and wife, and that's just crazy.
It's unthinkable. The whole thing is absolutely unthinkable.
Yeah. I think yeah. On another topic, I don't know what's happening. Do you think we're getting out of this funk of COVID?
You mean
the whole bullshit that we've had for 5 years? You think it's over? You think it reignite?
I don't think it's rolling back. Let Guns kind of threw in at the end of yesterday's show. We have the EU and some leaders over there. They're starting the talk of like, oh, the real big pandemic hasn't come yet. It would not surprise me if they had anything planned, because they don't like taking steps backwards.
Yeah.
And there's deals being made. There was a moment in time, and this was maybe a couple months ago, where suddenly, the leaders of the world changed their tune on Donald Trump's plan. His economic policies, the tariffs, the war in Ukraine. It was all Trump is evil, Trump is evil, Trump is evil, until about a month and a half ago, suddenly you get the leaders of the European Union going, actually, we love to partner with America. We love what Donald Trump is doing. We love, whatever his plan is. We can't wait to pay the tariffs. You said, who was it? There's another EU guy who comes out and says, yeah, you're right. We've been taking advantage of America for a long time, and it's only fair that we pay the tariffs now. I'm like, oh, geez, what deal was just struck? Like, what,
Yeah.
something weird is going on when overnight, the world leaders suddenly start being friends with Trump. So who knows? They're talking about, more pandemics and things like that. But, I think I do have more faith in the people than ever before, because to a degree, we must consent to these types of things. They can try their hardest one way or another, but it really does take the consent of the masses. And I find that hard to believe that they'll find the same kind of consent going around again.
I know, right?
But it doesn't stop them from trying.
It has it. Yeah. They when they want to get something done, they get it done.
They find a way. Yeah. Yeah, but again, I'm pretty grateful to have a community like you and the rest of the Canarians, because
cheers,
gracious, yeah, but when COVID started, we weren't doing the weekly thing or the couple times a week thing. There were Canarians out there, but really, when I look back at January 2020, February, March 2020, that was really when all sorts of things got kicked into gear.
Yeah.
And I focus on our community here, but there's communities out there like us. I'll say not a whole lot, very much like us. I think we are special in lots of irreplicable ways. But I am grateful for it. God is doing something out there.
And I gotta say, I love the way your take on the news. Like I've been watching for a very long time, and like back to the Canary Cry Radio, and that was your first one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also Gons has the Face Like the Sun channel. He's had that for how many years?
Yeah, just about. He started the year before Canary Cry Radio, so he started 2011.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really an interesting group of channels, or not channels like YouTube channels, but sort of venues that the Lord has brought us into. We're just as confused as everybody else, but we're very grateful. It's kind of interesting that the Lord, I mean, even, Gons and I were just talking about this, even through TJT and Ravel and Face Like the Sun and like all the different things we've done over the years, the fact that we can hold the ship together like this and have so many different little venues and formats and ways to try to follow what God's telling us to do. That's something that's fairly rare. That's not something that comes around all the time.
Yeah, like the Holy Spirit's moving you.
Yeah. Amen. Amen.
Well, anyway, I appreciate you having me up. It's good talking, Basil.
Always great to talk to you, buddy. Praying
Hey,
for
yeah.
you. Hope everything's going well over there, and hope you call in again.
Yeah. Well, my mom died a week and a half ago. And
Oh, no way. I didn't know that.
Still like it's kicking in.
Yeah.
But it's not way too bad as I thought it would be, but
Yeah.
it's getting, I don't know, maybe time will tell.
Yeah. Man, I'm obviously so sorry to hear that, man. That is one of those things that's sort of unreal to think about, and it's even unreal when it happens. But
I know, yeah.
man, we're here for you, buddy. You reach out whenever you need. If there's anything you need or you just need to chat something out, you got our email. You just reach out and we'll be praying for you.
Thanks a lot, Baz. I appreciate that, brother.
Yeah, you bet, buddy. God bless, man.
Yeah, take it easy.
Bye. Ay, ay, ay. So sorry to hear that, Be More Busker. Man, that's a lot. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of things, but I'll say this. In the moments when something like that happens in my life, thank God, praise God that I still have both my parents, but there have been people recently in my life who, I'd say are maybe not all the way at mom or dad level, but maybe one rung below that, who have passed, and it is just absolutely excruciating. And it is, it's one of those things, much like world events. Oftentimes that can feel very unreal, and we don't really know how we're going to react until something like that happens. But one benefit that we have, and the only choice that we really have, is to lean into the Father as hard as we can in times like that, whether it's historical events, whether it's personal tragedies. That's a gift that we have that unfortunately not everybody has, or at least knows that they have. Um, and that's just simply everything. It's like a scaffolding, a handrail, or a seat belt, um, with us at all times. And if you don't know to reach out in the scary times, if you don't know to reach out, if you don't know to buckle the seatbelt, if you don't know to reach out for the handrail when you trip, that can be a totally different story. But as believers, we know and we trust that the handrail's there, that the seatbelt's on, and that even when things like that happen, it can be absolutely gut wrenching and life changing. Even just knowing that God is there for us and that we are sort of equipped in really an existential and spiritual way, that that once you have it, once you see it, once you're aware of it, becomes very difficult to imagine life without God's closeness like that. But We'll all keep producers out there. We're going to be keeping here's this.
Producers, assemble!
That's right. All the producers out there praying for the show, praying for Gons and I, and of course, praying for other producers of the show. We're going to keep B. More Busker in our prayers for the loss of his mother, of course. I mean, goodness gracious, comfort and strength just supernaturally invade B. More Busker's space there. And again, I want to lift up Sir Darren's mother, who is fighting cancer right now as well. And remember, folks, if, what is any of this for if it's not for connecting and standing shoulder to shoulder with other believers? So, if there's ever something going on in your life and you want to get the Canary Cry family involved in spiritually intercessing or spiritually activating in prayer for what you got going on, I'll tell you what, it does a whole lot. Goodness gracious, I am really the most blessed guy in the world to have such a great community when something goes absolutely sideways. Oh, and Gonz's dad going through chemo too. We're keeping Gonz's dad in our prayers. That when something in life happens like this, which, if you've been around, the past couple of years of my life have been absolutely swamped with horrible things. But if we're not coming together as a spiritual family, then what is the point? Then it's just a podcast in a sea of other podcasts. So there you go. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. I'm surprised. How long did we go here? Hour and a half. That is a half hour longer than I thought I'd be able to hold it together. Really appreciate everybody who called in. I think that was very helpful for me, very helpful for the callers, very helpful for everybody listening. And yeah, a little bit of a weird day. The fact it's 9/11, the fact that I think we can all feel that things are going to be turning a corner. Perhaps things already have turned the corner. And what are we going to do about it? There's no way of knowing. There's no way of knowing. There's only one thing we can do, is that's continue to draw close to God in all the creative ways that he calls us to do that. Give a big shout out to everybody who joined the Canary Cry text message alert system. If you haven't done it, even if you're on the podcast version, or if you're live, you're here now, take out your phone, text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. You'll just get a text message alert straight from me before every time we go live. No matter what it is we're doing, you'll just let you know. You don't have to rely on the the algorithms that want to keep you in perpetual emotional trauma to let you know we're going live. We'll just get a little text, and the fun part is you can text us back at that number. Text us back at that number. You just let us know what's going on. Shout out to, let's see here, 678. Who's this? Is this these are Atlanta Canarians. Yes, Atlanta Canarians. Sharing more cute pictures of the baby wearing the God's prayer hat. Thank you. Kat says, hey, Baz, praying you're doing well. Catch you on the potty. Thank you very much. 612 says, have a great show. Thank you. 763 says, Baz, you're the only ones who brought up MK Deltas, the sleeper assassins. Yeah, well, that's we're weird around here, that's these types of things come to our brain. You can't go over a decade of keeping an eye on things like this without having certain things come to mind. 614 says, can civil war be stopped if one side stops talking to the other? One thing that always stuck with me, just a little maxim here. In fact, it came from I heard it from a guy who I interviewed a couple times for the show Ravel, which you can go check out if you want some spiritual exploration over there. His name's Peter Rollins. He's a philosopher, and he would tell me war is the inability to have conflict. Meaning we're supposed to have conflict with one another. We're supposed to disagree. That's what happens. We disagree. We have different opinions. We talk about those different opinions. We can even call each other names and, But when it comes to the point where we can no longer have conflict with one another, when we can't be in a state that is conflicting with others, that the ability to be in conflict with others is too compromised, then that's when it turns to war. War is the attempt to homogenize the world. It's the attempt to smooth out conflict, smooth out the sort of constant disagreement that we have with one another, that we're supposed to, live with and work through. And hey, we can just have different opinions. But when we can no longer have different opinions with one another, that is when war is the only response. So stay in prayer, everybody. Stay in your word. Thanks for tuning in here. Oh, you know what we do need? We need a little bit of this. Walk feet. There we go. That fix everything there. We'll be back at least on Monday with another Canary Cry. Now, here's the thing, folks. We're very seriously, let's say, begging the Lord for wisdom as to how to move forward. The world is going into a different place. Canarium is looking for ways to respond to the world that we're in. It's always been our intention and our hope to be able to do more Canary Cry radio episodes. We might run a little experiment like we've been doing all year. Trying to run little experiments, trying to find out exactly what the form, the shape of this thing God wants for us. So, prepare yourself emotionally. We might be trying to shake things up a little bit. Not too much. Not too much. Don't worry, we're not going away. We're always going to be doing what we're supposed to be doing. But thank you, everybody. Remember, we are value for value. So if you get any value from the community, go to canarycry.support. Get involved with your time, your talent, your treasure. We can't do without you. And thanks for tuning in to this episode of Canary Cry Clubhouse. Make sure to tune in next time. Until then, you know what to do. Think outside the cage.